Hello, and welcome to the Expanse. I'm the Quack, and I hope your days are less quack than mine. Today, we're going to be talking about the new BFA cinematic from BlizzCon, Lost Honor, and how it sets up the future lore of World of Warcraft. If you'd like to support the creation of this content, hit the subscribe button. If you like this content, hit the like button. And if you'd like to stay notified on the Quackery, hit the bell, or you can follow me on Twitter. So, the latest cinematic for BFA is called Lost Honor, and it sets up a lot. But contrary to what Lost Honor blatantly shows, I still believe Blizz in how they said things are going to turn out differently than Mists of Pandaria, and Sylvanas isn't a Garrosh 2.0. I mean, she's arguably an Arthas 2.0, but that's another conversation. What I think Lost Honor sets up is the fall of a champion and the making of a tragic villain. What I honestly think Lost Honor sets up is a betrayal that's going to hurt to watch. Now, what the hell am I talking about? Well, on the outset, the surface level of Lost Honor is pretty simple. Anduin goes to Saurfang, they have an emotional moment, and they both accept the fact they need each other to stop Sylvanas. It basically runs home the classic story of the Alliance and Horde working together under honourable terms to stop a greater threat. It's cool and it makes sense. Now here's the thing about the entire cinematic that makes no sense to me. Why is it called Lost Honor? I mean, I know it's a strange question, but titles are important, especially with how short this cinematic is, and how Old Soldiers perfectly summed up the last BFA cinematic. So, Lost Honor. What is that about? I mean, Saurfang, for all intents and purposes, has kept his honor. I mean, it's made clear he chose honor over loyalty to Sylvanas in the Stormwind Stockade. It's why the cinematic happens in the first place. I mean, you can argue the shame of letting an Alliance King do his dirty work is a stain on his honor, but once again, that whole situation comes down to loyalty, which at the time of the Battle of the Undercity, Saurfang chose to uphold. And the only reason he is alive is because Anduin decided to spare him. That's it. So did Saurfang lose his honor then? And I mean, during the entire cinematic, Saurfang still upholds his beliefs in how the Horde should be, and most importantly, he still doesn't ask the Alliance for help. I mean, in one way you could say his confession was a plea for help, and in another you could also say Saurfang accepting the gift of freedom from an Alliance King was a dishonourable act. However, overall, I'm under the impression Saurfang's honour remained pretty intact. I mean, if anything, Saurfang gained more honour, as he reconciled the fact that he has to do something about Sylvanas, that he can't just sit in prison and hope his inaction will make the difference. I mean, is that his dishonorable act? The act of standing by, stepping aside and letting others do what he knows needs to be done? I am genuinely curious, because I don't think Saurfang lost his honor, but you may think differently, and I would like to hear your opinions in the comment section. So with everything I just said in mind, the question becomes once again, why is this cinematic called Lost Honor? Who has lost or is losing their honor? And as you have probably already guessed, I think this cinematic is called Lost Honor because of Anduin. Because in this cinematic, Anduin changes, and not for the better. In the opening of the cinematic, Anduin mentions why he believed the Alliance was fighting. He thought he was fighting for peace, but now he only seems to see the war as senseless fighting. This is a drastic change for the Boy King. For in Before the Storm, you find out Anduin does not deal with death well. The death of anyone he considers himself responsible for, or even empathizes with, is something he is not emotionally equipped to deal with. And that's not even mentioning what happens when people close to him die. Anduin's only solace with most death is the belief that the dead will either be with their loved ones when they die, or the notion that their death was for a greater good. For Anduin to say the reason why the soldiers he knows he sent to battle died for just the sake of fighting is a major indication that his hopeful and honourable ideas of peace for all are fading. What's worse though is what those ideals are being replaced by. Gen states to Anduin you are doing all you can to stop her, the her being Sylvanas. And what follows is a look that perfectly encapsulates what's happening to Anduin. After the events of the Desolate Council, Anduin hates Sylvanas, as in is willing to do anything to end her if pushed far enough. And this war with the Alliance and the Horde has begun to strengthen and solidify that hatred. In this cinematic, I think it's showing Anduin's slow break. I think the reason why this cinematic is called Lost Honor is because Anduin is wholeheartedly using Saurfang to weaken the Horde, so he can kill Sylvanas. That's it. Not for honor, not for peace, for vengeance and hatred, with the justification being he is protecting his people. Gen's statement wasn't chosen by accident. I mean, I ask you, do you think Anduin has really been doing all he could to defeat Sylvanas? Because if Grand Lector Inara's disturbing statement is any indication as to what the Lightforge can do and are willing to do, then you can easily say no. And even if Anduin has been doing everything he could, with his personality, do you really think he would think he has been doing everything? It's shown in Before the Storm and the attack on the Undercity within the Alliance. Anduin is pretty much the only one who wants to kill Sylvanas, but is also the only one who can maintain their composure. He doesn't let his hatred or vengeance consume him. He shows restraint. He knows he shows restraint. It's an admirable achievement. But with the body count rising and the army of Stormwind soon having to turn to farmers for soldiers, how long do you think it will take before Anduin will justify something below the line in the name of his people? If this theory holds, Lost Honor shows the first steps of that fall. The first steps of Anduin becoming a darker leader. A leader that's willing to use every resource at his disposal to ensure the survival of his people, even if that means manipulating the ideals of an honorable soldier like Saurfang. I mean, other than the uncharacteristic scowl, am I the only one who was thinking the lighting for Anduin, even in the Stormwind Stockade, was pretty dark? As in, it wasn't just the light, but it was representing the fact his character had shifted to a darker place. Not to mention his strange questioning of Saurfang's honor, as if he wanted to motivate him to do something, which is odd because there's no way what Saurfang wants is what the Alliance would ever allow again. The situation and circumstances of Saurfang and Anduin's interaction during this war only benefit the Alliance in the long run and massively weaken the Horde. Overall, it's a very dubious and one-sided agreement on Anduin's part, a deal he would usually be loath to enact. You see this with his personality with Varisa Windrunner in War Crimes. Anduin could have let Garrosh die through a dubious act, without anyone knowing, yet he still chose to save Garrosh's life. So, if Anduin holds the course of this downward spiral, if he lets his ideals slip under the betterment of the Alliance and lets his rage for Sylvanas fester, he'll end up turning into the person he hates the most, Sylvanas. Or more precisely, the person she hates the most, Arthas. And just to give you an idea about where this dynamic of the old soldier and the broken king could head, I ask you this. If the Horde suddenly surrendered, or if Saurfang suddenly usurped Sylvanas, do you really think there would be peace? I personally think that would be a pipe dream. For after the events of Mists of Pandaria and now BFA, the Alliance at this point has no reason to tolerate the Horde's presence on Azeroth. And with the one pillar of peace slipping from his ideals, what do you think is going to happen? Especially if that slip in ideals results in an outcome Anduin desires. The prediction I'm making for this cinematic is Saurfang will return to the Horde, and he will realize his goal to restore the Horde to an honorable state. What he'll miss until the very last second, though, is that his challenging of Sylvanas' rule, his fracturing of the Horde, will create the weakness the Alliance needs to end the Horde once and for all. And this time, there will be no negotiations. No more second chances given by the Alliance, considering the last time they did that in Mists, What resulted was the death of Varian, according to them, and the burning of Tedrassil, which, like it or not, the Horde is absolutely complicit in. And so, depending on the situation, Saurfang will kill or dethrone Sylvanas. Actually, the joke would be if when confronted, Sly says, okay, have it, and just takes her loyal forces and vanishes to fight a greater threat. But once Sylvanas is gone, alive or dead, whether it be a joint Horde and Alliance effort or not, Saurfang and the Horde will realize that Anduin used him to bring the Horde to its knees. And this isn't even mentioning the turmoil and ugly choices that would happen within the Alliance if Anduin decided to keep his morals. Either way, it's quite possible by the end of BFA, the Alliance and Anduin are going to do something they condemned Sylvanas for doing in the name of justice, the people. There will be a reason, and they will be proven to be hypocritical and more dangerous than the Horde was under Sylvanas. But, with all that said, do you think this is plausible or possible? Leave a comment. The best speculation is usually done with the community. If you prefer to talk about your lore though, I usually hang out in the Shinies and Lucydos Discord, and even if I'm not there, the small community that usually is amazing to talk lore, speculation, or anything World of Warcraft with. Until next time though, have a nice day.